It's time to talk about MTG Finance. Strixhaven is out. The race to the bottom on singles has begun as people have started to crack all of their collector boosters. Also, we're going to talk about some reverberating effects with big personalities joining the MTG scene in a big way. There's also the effect of cryptocurrency and its potential effects on collectibles as well. We've got a lot to talk about today on MTG Finance. It's going to be a quick one, but a good one, and the video starts right now.
Special thanks to our Patreon supporters who power our channel. Check out our Patreon for monthly giveaways, exclusive content, and even a starring role in our fan fight series. Link in the description below.
Hello and welcome to the day. Thank you for spending your time with us. I'm Jake. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. Today we are talking about Magic the Gathering Finance. So everybody bring out your pitchforks and get ready to skewer me with your pitchforks. We're talking about Dungeons and Dragons, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, a new MTG set that's going to come out, and some of the cards that you might need to be thinking about before that set comes out. Also, we're going to talk about Strixhaven Sealed versus Strixhaven Singles. We're going to head on over to eBay and take a look around over there with what's going on and the trends now that Strixhaven has hit the public in mass. And then finally, we're going to go over a couple things that are related to MTG. One, Post Malone has joined the MTG scene in a big way. We're not going to talk a lot about that, but we are going to talk about the effect of a big personality joining MTG. I guess what we could call the Logan Paul effect. And then finally, we're going to get into a little bit of crypto talk. Make sure that you are subscribed. There's a lot to get into today, so let's just jump in. So the first thing we want to go over is Dungeons and Dragons Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. This is going to be a D&D centric Magic the Gathering set. This is going to be a straight up crossover is my understanding. And so when we start thinking about this, we know that Party, which was originally introduced in Zendikar Rising, is going to be a theme in this set. These are the kind of cards that you need to start thinking about. For example, what is Party? Well, here's Spoils of Adventure, 1 blue, 1 white, 4 other, instant. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your party. And what your party is your party consists of up to 1 of each cleric, rogue, warrior, and wizard. So you gain 3 life and you draw 3 cards. But again, if you had 4 of these creatures on the battlefield, you would only pay 1 blue and 1 white to draw 3 and gain 3 life at instant speed, which is incredibly bonkers and broken. So cards like this are going to gain potency, and I'm not saying that this card is going to take off in price. This is just a random uncommon. But cards like Tajiru Paragon come to mind. 1 green, 1 other for a creature elf. It's also a cleric, rogue, warrior, and wizard. So it is all of those things, but it will only check 1 box of the party mechanics. So you would need other creatures on the battlefield in order for party to be complete. However, cards like this that are probably not really on your radar are probably going to gain a little bit of potency as this new set comes out, as it is normally the hive mind. As a new set comes out, people start brewing and they start theory crafting of what kind of decks, what kind of cards, what's going to be the new big card that takes off. Also, you know, cards like Maskwood Nexus, which came out in Call Time, come to mind as well. This is a shapeshifter. This is going to be every creature type. So yeah, these are the kind of things that need to be on your mind as Adventures in the Forgotten Realms comes out and is the next upcoming set. So we've talked about Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Strixhaven collector boosters. Strixhaven came out just about a week ago and it has been a pretty successful set. The Mystical Archive is awesome. There's a lot of people that like the new Japanese variants. They're very beautiful, but like any set, a lot of these cards are starting to race to the bottom, and the sealed product itself has seen a little bit of a correction as well. And you can quickly see that there are boxes available at 230. Just a week ago, with all of the hype, these boxes got to like 250 minimum. It was very hard to find them for less than that, but there has been a little bit of a correction. This typically happens once players are able to start acquiring the singles that they want. When they start to see that the singles are a reasonable price, there becomes less FOMO for the sealed product. I'm not saying that sealed isn't a good investment long term. This isn't financial advice, but it is. Like, sealed is the way. But Strixhaven is a really fun product. I think that it's going to withstand the test of time. It has very powerful staples in it, like Demonic Tutor, Teferi's Protection, Time Warp, all in beautiful, beautiful variants. So the sealed product is going down right now, but a couple of the singles are starting to have very big upticks in price. And speaking of Time Warp and singles that are starting to have a big uptick, let's go ahead and talk about Foil Japanese Time Warp alternate art on April 24th. you're going to see as we scroll up here, we get closer to the current date, but you can see the price of Time Warp 244, one sold for 184.99. Don't you wish you could have got in on that? But I think this is a combination of the art, and I don't know if it's like a forced scarcity or people just really want this card, but then we see a big jump to 250. This is on April 27th here. Keep scrolling up and we see a big jump in price again, this time to 275 on April 28th. And then we're just clearly past 300s on April 29th. Then you can see here, and these are most recently, this is May 4th, 440. So at this point, it is safe to assume that Time Warp, here's one that sold for 400. Here's one best offer on 600, 450, 500 best offer, 400. So a couple of these cards are really starting to have big upshifts. And at this point, it's safe to assume that Time Warp and Demonic are essentially on the same tier. So now there are two huge mythic foil chase cards that essentially are going to pay for an entire sealed Strixhaven collector booster and more if you find this card. So what's the big deal about these two cards? Well, I mean, you could buy them somewhere else for a much cheaper price, but it's this exclusive Pimp Factor variant. And what you need to know about EDH is all about the Pimp Factor. What's the coolest card? I'm not saying that's the thing that most people care about, but there is a very big group of people that do care about the Pimp Factor of their EDH decks. Demonic Tutor is a staple. Fantastic card. Time Warp also in that kind of deck. It's a great card at taking turns. So yes, singles, certain singles are going up. A lot of the singles are bottoming out, and then the collector boosters just kind of holding at 230. Do I think it will go up over time? I kind of think it'll hold where it is for a while, and I think it will probably start to creep up. We might see it get to around Commander Legends prices, but remember, Commander Legends has Jeweled Lotus, and it's the only spot that you can find the extended art foil Jeweled Lotus, the Commander Legends collector boosters. So I do think that that's probably a fair target to guess where this product is going to end up in the long term. Yeah, if you are on the fence about Strixhaven collectors, there are, at least in my opinion, lots of tutors popping up, so maybe you can get lucky. So briefly, I want to talk about Post Malone joining the MTG scene. So this is kind of a big deal as a huge personality, music personality joins the game. So I have an opinion of Pokemon that the game is just kind of lackluster, or at least the collector side of the game is kind of lackluster, as whenever a new set comes out, there are some fun cards to chase, but it's always about one big Charizard, one big shiny alternate art, G-Max, whatever. Charizard. The game doesn't even have a second main phase. That's all I'm gonna, knock on Pokemon. But in MTG, there are tons and tons of cards outside of Charizard that you can chase. I'm not saying that Pokemon doesn't have those cards, but recent Pokemon sets, the most modern Pokemon sets, only have like one or two cards that are huge money chase rares. I do think that in the long term, MTG is a game that people are going to find more interesting than Pokemon. Pokemon does have very cute characters. The reason I'm talking about Pokemon so much, and the reason that I'm talking about Post Malone, is because it's kind of like this Logan Paul effect, where you have somebody like Logan Paul, start buying first edition base set Pokemon booster boxes. It causes a frenzy of FOMO, because right now we have a lot of people moving money into assets with all of the inflation that's going to be coming up, just because, when you print a lot of money, there has to be some sort of repercussions for that. The money, you can't just print it indefinitely forever without there being huge side effects. So people are starting to move money into assets, and MTG, Pokemon, they are no exception. Sports cards, we're seeing it across the board with all sorts of random stuff. GME and Dogecoin, which we're going to talk about very briefly in just a moment. But just keep this in mind as you have more big players come to the MTG scene. Those cards that you might be waiting on, sitting on, saying, when is this card gonna drop in price? If it's a big reserve list staple, it very well may not. Some people say that the proxy game is getting much better. I still haven't seen anybody that can do the green dot test well. And anybody who knows MTG cards, if you hold it in your hand in just a second, like out of a sleeve, a real MTG card. I wouldn't worry so much about bootlegs that much. People are gonna try their best to fake these cards, especially as these cards, you have Black Lotus sell for $500,000. There's speculation that possibly Post Malone was the bidder on that, but who the hell knows? But yeah, look out for this big Logan Paul type effect when you see big personalities entering the game. And then finally, Dogecoin hit 60 cents briefly on May 4th at 7:05 in the morning. Why am I talking about this? What is the point of this? Well, there's overlap between MTG players and people who like to bet on meme coins. Just based on the number of people in our Discord that are interested in this, I would say that if that's a microcosm of the interest of this and people just wanting to jump on a post-COVID random meme wave, I think there's a chance. And again, none of this is financial advice. But if this coin, for example, were to go to like $1 or $2, people who take those gains do not expect them to just be like, oh, look at all of this great fiat currency. No, they're going to take those gains and they're going to put it into either real investments, property, or again, collectibles like MTG and Pokemon. So if there is a huge windfall of Doge cash that just exists out of nowhere, I would say that we can expect MTG to also have an uptick in singles price. Again, nothing here is financial advice. I was going over what kind of episode I wanted to make today, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to talk about where my mind is at with stuff, what I'm thinking about. Am I completely off? Do you think that, you know, it's unrealistic to think that if Dogecoin were to skyrocket, people take gains, that they're not going to YOLO it into MTG and other stuff that they care about? I do see people buying cars. I see people buying houses. But for people that don't get huge gains, maybe they go finally pick up a cradle and they go, I put $100 in at 5 cents and it turned into $3,000. And so I went out and I bought Tabby and Gaia's Cradle because I knew I would never own those cards. I'm just saying, it seems like a possibility. It seems realistic. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'm Jake with Jake and Joel Magic. I'll see you later.